In this lesson, we will dive into IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS in a bit more depth, and I've decided to combine all three together because it makes sense to compare and contrast. Starting with IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service, these are Microsoft Azure components which most resemble traditional data center hosting. This includes services such as virtual machines and Azure Virtual Networks. Microsoft only provides a thin layer of hardware support when it comes to IaaS, as the customer is responsible for the patching and upgrading of the operating system and ensuring high availability. Building an IaaS-based application means you have to look after the underlying virtual machine infrastructure, as well as any application code which you deploy on top. The main benefits of building IaaS is the ease of portability from on-premises, or ease of portability from one cloud service provider to another, as well as providing full control over security and compliance. However, the main difficulties are the high operational cost, as well as the need for traditional infrastructure experts such as Wintel or Unix to help manage the virtual machine infrastructure. Platform as a Service or PaaS components are a hybrid model, which allow the customer to maintain some flexibility and control while offloading a lot of the underlying hardware management to Microsoft. Using PaaS services, the customer does not have to think about patching or upgrading the operating system, and a lot of the low-level infrastructure management is taken care of or provided as an easy one-click solution from Microsoft. Serverless computing is a major example of the benefits of using PaaS services, with Microsoft Azure Function Apps as a great example of this. Azure Function Apps allow the customer to upload and deploy their code and packages, which run almost instantly, without needing to configure or worry about the underlying hardware or infrastructure. Serverless computing is often, although not always, also run on a consumption model, meaning you don't pay for underlying infrastructure hardware which you're not using. Cloud service providers are keen for customers to use PaaS services to really utilize the full potential of cloud, and it can save development costs as well as operational costs. It could also lead to vendor lock-in if the services are specific to one cloud service provider. Finally, SaaS or Software as a Service products are those that come almost entirely packaged and ready for consumption by Microsoft, with very little access to the underlying code or hardware infrastructure. The customer is only responsible for doing minor tweaking of the configuration or providing the data. I reiterate that knowing the difference between SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS is really important when getting to grips with cloud hosting. A service where customers have complete control of the hardware and the code running on top is IaaS. Examples of this are Windows virtual machines, Windows servers, IaaS running on a Windows virtual machine, a Linux server running Red Hat, or an Ubuntu server running Nginx, or a SQL server running on IaaS. These are the main types of IaaS infrastructure that you would see. PaaS services abstract away the hardware layer, but allow the customer to build, modify, and deploy their code on top. Azure Function Apps are the main example of serverless PaaS, whereas app services, which allow IaaS website hosting without worrying about underlying infrastructure, is another very common example. Finally, SaaS products abstract away almost everything, leaving the customer responsible for the configuration and data. Examples include Power BI and Dynamics 365.